The story I'm about to tell you is the most horrifying betrayal between mother and child in human history. Because in this story, a daughter sold her own mother to slave traders. In 1042 in Constantinople, a transaction took place. But this wasn't an ordinary transaction. What was being sold was Helena, the former empress of the Byzantine Empire. And the person selling her was her own daughter. Right now you're thinking, this is impossible. But this is just the beginning, because after this daughter sold her mother, she did even more horrifying things. This woman's name was Zoe Porphyrogenita, one of the most powerful women in the Byzantine Empire, and she didn't hesitate to sacrifice her mother to stay on the throne. But here's the most terrifying part. After Zoe sold her mother, when she saw her in the slave market, she pretended not to recognize her, and she even bought goods from her. If you're wondering, how can a daughter be this heartless? Listen to this story to the end, because the truths you're about to learn will change all your thoughts about family bonds. And most frightening of all, this story is still happening today. Just instead of slave markets, different methods are used. Zoe Porphyrogenita was born in 978 in the Great Palace. Her father was Emperor Constantine VIII, her mother Helena Argyros. The title Porphyrogenita meant born in the purple room. This was a title used for the most noble princes, but Zoe's childhood didn't pass like a princess at all. Her father Constantine wanted a male child. Because she was a girl, he never loved Zoe. He would call her cursed girl and wouldn't even let her near him. This situation created a deep anger in Zoe. The rejection she received from her father made her a cold and calculating person. Her mother, Helena, was the opposite. She loved Zoe very much. She gave everything to her. When Zoe was sick, she would stay by her bedside all night, telling her stories. She would even spend her own food money for Zoe. But Zoe saw her mother's love as weakness. Mother is too soft, she thought. To survive in this world, you need to be ruthless. When she turned 18, Zoe needed to get married, but her father couldn't find her a suitable groom because Zoe was very proud. She didn't consider anyone worthy of herself. During this process, her mother Helena gave her great support. "My daughter," she would say, "you were born to be a queen. Never bow to anyone." Helena's words further inflated Zoe's ego, and at the same time planted the seeds of her future betrayal. In 1028, when her father Constantine died, Zoe finally caught her opportunity. Before her father died, he married her to Emperor Romanos III. This marriage made Zoe an empress. But the real power was in her mother Helena's hands. Helena was the most experienced woman in the palace. She understood intrigues and politics, and she constantly gave advice to Zoe. In the first years, mother and daughter got along very well. Helena was Zoe's closest advisor. They ruled the palace together. But Zoe's husband Romanos didn't like Helena. "Your mother interferes too much," he would say to Zoe. "If she leaves, we'll be happier." At first, Zoe defended her mother, but over time, Romanos's words took effect. Zoe began to see her mother's presence as an obstacle. In 1034, when Romanos died, Zoe was very scared, because now she was alone, and she had many enemies in the palace. Helena tried to console her daughter. "Don't worry," she said, "I'm with you. Together we can overcome everything." But Zoe was making other plans. Instead of her mother's support, she wanted to find a new husband and gain strength. In late 1034, Zoe secretly began planning her second marriage. Her target was the young and handsome Michael IV Paphlagonian, but for this marriage, she first needed to remove some obstacles. The first obstacle was her mother. Helena didn't like Michael. "This man will use you," she would say to Zoe. "Don't trust him." But Zoe no longer wanted to listen to her mother's words. "Mother, you've grown old," she would say. "You don't understand the new generation anymore." These words broke Helena's heart. But she was still trying to protect her daughter. During Zoe and Michael's secret meetings, Helena constantly came between them. "Mother, leave us alone," Zoe would say angrily. Helena spoke openly to Michael one day. "If you hurt my daughter, I'll have you expelled from the palace." This threat made Michael very angry. He went to Zoe and complained, "Your mother is trying to separate us. If you really love me, you need to stop her." After this conversation, Zoe took a stance against her mother. "Mother, stop interfering," she said harshly. I'm an adult woman, Helena answered with tears. My daughter, I'm just trying to protect you. You are everything to me. But Zoe now saw her mother's love as a burden. This woman is suffocating me, she thought. I need to get rid of her. In 1035, when Zoe married Michael, she didn't even invite Helena to the ceremony. This was the first major blow she dealt to her mother. On the wedding night, Helena came to her daughter's door. Zoe, can you talk to me? She said, but Zoe didn't open the door. Mother, I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow, she said from inside. Helena returned to her room crying that night. She now understood she had lost her daughter. In the following months, Zoe completely excluded her mother. She didn't invite her to palace meetings, didn't consult her on important decisions, and even had her eat meals separately. Helena tried to change this situation. She sent gifts to her daughter, had her favorite foods prepared. But nothing worked. One day, Helena gathered her courage and went to her daughter's room. Zoe, I don't know what I did. Why are you avoiding me? Zoe answered coldly. Mother, you're stuck in the past. You no longer have a place in this palace. These words hurt Helena deeply. But worse was coming. In 1040, the Byzantine Empire faced a major financial crisis. Long wars, excessive spending, and poor management had emptied the treasury. Michael IV came to Zoe. There's no money left in the treasury. We urgently need gold. Zoe panicked. If the empire collapsed, she would lose her throne too. What will we do? She asked. We'll sell valuable items from the palace, said Michael, but even this might not be enough. While they were having this conversation, Helena was listening at her daughter's room door. When she heard about the money problem, she tried to find a solution. The next day, Helena came to Zoe. My daughter, I have savings. I want to help the empire. Helena's savings were jewels, gold, and valuable fabrics she had saved over the years. She was offering to give these to her daughter. At first, Zoe refused this offer. Mother, I can't take your savings. But Michael convinced Zoe, if the empire is saved, we can give back many times more to your mother. Zoe finally accepted. Helena gave all her valuable possessions to her daughter. This was worth about 500 gold, but this money wasn't enough either. The empire was still in huge debt. Michael began suggesting more radical solutions to Zoe. We need to remove some people from the palace. We can't pay salaries. Who will we remove? Zoe asked. Old servants, unnecessary advisors, and your mother. This last word surprised Zoe. My mother? Yes, said Michael decisively. She doesn't do anything. She just takes up space. She needs to go. Zoe initially opposed this idea, but Michael insisted. If your mother doesn't leave, the empire will collapse, and then we'll both lose our thrones. This fear changed Zoe's decision. She decided to expel her mother from the palace. When she told Helena about this situation, the old woman was shocked. My daughter, where will I go? You'll find a house in the city, Zoe said coldly. You no longer have a place in the palace. Helena pleaded with tears. Zoe, I gave birth to you, raised you. Don't throw me out on the street. But Zoe didn't change her decision. Mother, this is final. You'll leave the palace tomorrow. After Helena was expelled from the palace, she was forced to settle in a small room in one of Constantinople's poor neighborhoods. As an old woman, she had no strength to work. The little money she had was quickly depleted. A few months later, Helena was struggling with hunger. She decided to ask her daughter for help. When she came to the palace gate, the guards wouldn't let her in. The Empress isn't receiving anyone, they said. Helena pleaded with the guards. I'm her mother. Please, I just want to see her for a minute. But nothing worked. Zoe didn't want to see her mother. Meanwhile, Helena's neighbors began giving her bad advice. You're a former empress, they said. People would be willing to pay you and serve you. At first, Helena didn't understand these words, but her neighbor Stavros explained the situation. You're a valuable asset. Rich families would want to buy you and use you as a servant. Are you telling me to sell myself as a slave? Helena asked in astonishment. No, said Stavros. You don't sell yourself, but you can find someone to do it. Helena rejected this idea, but as hunger increased, this option became more attractive. Meanwhile, Zoe continued to live in luxury in the palace. She held expensive feasts with Michael, bought valuable gifts. Even when she learned about her mother's situation, she didn't care. Mother made her own choice, she told herself. She's no longer my problem. But other women in the palace criticized Zoe. "How can you throw your mother out on the street?" they said. Zoe was annoyed by these criticisms. "They don't understand me," she thought. "You have to make sacrifices for the empire." Meanwhile, Helena's situation was getting worse and worse. She could no longer find money for food. Stavros approached her again. "Helena, there's no other option left. Either you die or you sell yourself." Helena, in desperation, accepted. "What do I need to do?" "Go to the slave market," said Stavros. "Find someone there to sell you." Helena couldn't believe she had accepted this offer, but hunger had overcome her pride. Constantinople's slave market was one of the ugliest places in the city. This was where war prisoners, debtors, and the unfortunate were sold. When Helena went there, her stomach turned. People were displayed like animals. Buyers examined them, bargained. Slave trader Dmitri became interested when he saw Helena. "You look different. Where do you come from?" Helena hesitated to tell the truth. "I'm a former palace servant. Now I need money." Dmitri examined Helena from head to toe. "Your age is advanced, but you look noble. Rich families like such women. I can give you 30 gold. This amount was a lot of money for Helena. When she accepted, she was now a slave. Dmitri chained Helena with the other slaves and put her on display for buyers. The first day, no one bought Helena. The second day was the same. Helena fell into despair. On the third day, something unexpected happened. A group of women from the palace came to the slave market, and among them was Zoe. Zoe had come to buy young servants for the palace at Michael's request. While walking through the slave market, she noticed an old woman sitting in a corner. This woman seemed familiar, but she couldn't remember who she was. When she approached, she saw the woman's face, and she was shocked. This woman was her mother. When Helena saw her daughter too, tears burst forth. "Zoe, my daughter." But Zoe's reaction was unexpected. She pretended not to recognize her mother. "Who is this woman?" she asked Dmitri. "A former palace servant," said Dmitri. "Very experienced. I'll give her for 30 gold. Zoe looked into her mother's eyes. Helena's gaze was pleading. "My daughter, save me." But Zoe remained cold. "She looks very old," she said. "Can she do heavy work?" These words shattered Helena's heart. Her daughter was really pretending not to know her. Dmitri explained Helena's abilities. "She's very smart. She can read and write. She can do math. She can take care of valuable items." Zoe thought. She actually needed such a slave. But this woman was her mother. A voice inside warned her, "This is wrong. Your mother doesn't deserve this situation." But another voice was stronger. "You're an empress. You can't show weakness. And besides, if you buy your mother as a slave, you can protect her." This second thought convinced her. "Okay," she told Dmitri. "I'm taking this woman." When Zoe decided to buy her mother, Helena experienced mixed feelings of joy and shock. On one hand, she was happy that her daughter had saved her. On the other hand, she felt the pain of being bought as a slave. 30 gold, Zoe told Dmitri. There was no emotion in her voice, as if she was buying a normal slave. While Dmitri was counting the money, Helena approached Zoe. "My daughter, did you recognize me?" Zoe spoke in a low voice so the other palace people wouldn't hear. "Yes, I recognized you. But you're not my mother here. Here you're just a slave." These words surprised Helena even more. "What do you mean?" "I mean this," said Zoe coldly. "I bought you, but this doesn't make you my mother. You're my slave now. And you have to behave like a slave." Helena felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Zoe, I carried you in my womb for 9 months. I raised you, gave you everything. Now, are you making me your slave?" There was no emotion on Zoe's face. "Mother, your old life is over. Now a new life is starting. And in this life, I am your owner." When Dmitri heard this conversation, he was surprised. "Is this woman really your mother?" Zoe panicked. If the truth came out, there would be a big scandal. "No," she said quickly. "This woman is just an old acquaintance. She thinks she's my mother because she's old. Her mind is confused." Helena was shocked when she heard her daughter's lie. "Zoe, how can you lie like this?" But Zoe silenced her. "Shut up. Don't open your mouth again." Dmitri seemed not to understand the situation but didn't care since he had received the money. "This woman is now yours." Zoe removed Helena's chains, but this didn't mean freedom. Now Helena had become her daughter's slave. On the way to the palace, Zoe explained the rules to Helena. You will call me my lady. You will never say my daughter or Zoe. When talking to other servants, you won't say you're my mother. And most importantly, you will always be obedient." Helena felt her heart breaking as she listened to these rules. "Well, what about private moments? Can't I be your mother even when we're alone?" Zoe answered decisively, "No. You're never my mother anymore. You're just a slave named Helen." These words were the final blow for Helena. Now, she was not only a slave, but her very existence was denied. When they arrived at the palace, Zoe introduced Helena to the other servants. "This is Helen, our new slave. She knows the old palace rules. She'll help you." The servants greeted Helena, but the tears in Helena's eyes surprised them. That night, Helena stayed in the slave quarters. For the first time in her life, she was sleeping as a slave in the palace of her own daughter. Helena's life as a slave was harder than she had expected. She woke up early in the morning and did the heaviest work in the palace. Her first job was cleaning the palace's great hall. She was now cleaning around the throne where she had once sat as empress, where her daughter now sat. Zoe took a strange pleasure from watching her mother work. "Now, who do you see as more powerful?" she thought. The other servants felt pity for Helena. They thought it was wrong for an old woman to do such heavy work. "Helen," said the head servant Maria, "you're getting very tired. If you want, let me move you to lighter work." But Zoe heard this. No, she'll work like the other slaves, no privileges for her. Helena was even more saddened when she heard her daughter's words, but she didn't make a sound. As days passed, Helena's health began to deteriorate. The heavy work was straining her old body. Wounds formed on her hands, her back hurt. One day, while cleaning the dining hall, she fainted. The other servants carried her to her room. When Zoe learned about this situation, she didn't worry at all. "She's being lazy. Let her work again tomorrow." But Helena was really sick. Her fever had risen. She had started coughing. Maria came to Zoe. "My lady, Helen is very sick. We should call a doctor." "No need," said Zoe. "We don't spend money on slaves' illnesses." This decision meant a death sentence for Helena. For 3 days, Helena lay burning with fever. No one was taking care of her. They only gave her water. On the 4th day, Maria gathered courage and went to Zoe again. "My lady, Helen is about to die. At least talk to her one last time." Zoe refused this request. "She's just a slave. If she dies, we'll buy someone else instead." But Maria insisted. "My lady, wasn't she someone you knew?" This question made Zoe uncomfortable. "No, she's just a stranger. She means nothing to me." In Helena's final days, the other servants in the palace tried to secretly help her. They smuggled food, tried to find medicine. But Helena's condition was getting worse and worse. She was even having trouble speaking. On the 5th day, Helena called Maria to her side with her last strength. "Maria, can you call my daughter?" Maria went to Zoe. "My lady, Helen wants to talk to you." It's her last request. Zoe wanted to refuse at first, but everyone in the palace had learned about the situation. If she refused, she would look heartless. She said reluctantly, but only for a minute. When Zoe entered Helena's room, she was shocked. Her mother was now unrecognizable. She had become very thin, pale. "Helen," said Zoe in a cold voice, "what do you want from me?" Helena looked into her daughter's eyes. "Zoe, my daughter, why did you do this to me?" Since there was no one else around, Zoe spoke truthfully. "Because you're weak, mother. In this world, the strong survive." Helena answered with tears. "I carried you in my womb for 9 months. I didn't sleep nights for you. I gave you all my love. And you left me in the slave market." These words didn't affect Zoe. "Mother, those are in the past. Now only power matters." Helena made a terrible decision in her final breaths. "Zoe, I curse you." Zoe was surprised. "What?" Helena continued with her trembling voice. "You sold your own mother. This sin will continue. In your lineage, your children too will abandon you. You will never find a mother's love." These words frightened Zoe. "Mother, don't talk nonsense. Curses aren't real." But Helena's final words were more terrifying. "As I die, I don't forgive you. This betrayal will live in your soul forever." After these words, Helena breathed her last. Her eyes were open, looking at her daughter. When Zoe was left alone with her mother's corpse, she felt a strange fear. It was as if the air in the room had become heavy. After Helena's death, Zoe tried to continue her normal life, but strange things began to happen. First, she began seeing her mother in her dreams. In her dreams, Helena always said the same thing: "You sold me, Zoe. Now you'll pay the price." Zoe tried not to care about these dreams. Just guilt, she thought. It'll pass. But it didn't pass. The dreams became more terrifying. Helena was dragging her daughter to the slave market, trying to sell her. Zoe became unable to sleep. She would wake up nights screaming. Michael began to get annoyed by this situation. "Zoe, what's happening to you? You're constantly shouting." "Nothing," Zoe would say, "just bad dreams." But things got worse. Zoe began seeing her mother's ghost during the day, too. Helena wandered the palace corridors, accusing her daughter. "You killed me, Zoe," the ghost would say. "Now it's your turn." These hallucinations began to drive Zoe crazy. While talking to servants, she would suddenly stop and stare into space. "My lady, are you all right?" they would ask. "Yes, I'm fine," Zoe would say, but she wasn't fine at all. 6 months later, something more terrifying happened. Zoe became pregnant. The child she had wanted so much was finally coming. But during pregnancy, Helena's ghost appeared more frequently. "This child will abandon you too, Zoe. You don't deserve to be a mother." Zoe tried not to believe these words, but deep down, she was afraid. A month before birth, she had a terrible dream. In her dream, the baby she was going to give birth to was rejecting her. "You're a bad mother," the baby said. "I don't love you." After this dream, Zoe was very frightened. "What if my child really doesn't love me?" she thought. In 1043, Zoe gave birth to a baby girl. She named her Anna, but from birth, the baby didn't get used to her mother. Anna cried constantly, was restless in Zoe's arms, but she stayed calm in other people's arms. "Strange," said the midwife. "Babies usually get more attached to their mothers." But Anna was different. It was as if she couldn't feel her mother. Zoe was very sad about this situation. "Why doesn't my daughter love me?" she wondered. As months passed, the situation got worse. Anna would start crying when she saw Zoe, but she was happy with her nanny. One day, Zoe went to her mother's grave. "Mother," she said, crying, "did I really do something very bad?" Of course, she got no answer, but deep down she felt that her mother's curse was real. When Anna turned 2, her first words were, "Nanny." She didn't say mother to Zoe, she called her woman. This situation hurt Zoe deeply. Her own child didn't recognize her. When she turned 5, Anna had become even colder. When Zoe tried to hug her, she would run away. "Anna, I'm your mother," Zoe would say. "I know," Anna would say coldly, "but I don't love you." These words showed that Helena's curse was coming true. As years passed, Zoe better understood the horror of what she had done to her mother. She realized that she had stolen the love she couldn't get from her own child from her mother. Now, an old woman, Zoe would go to her mother's grave at nights. "Mother, forgive me," she would cry. "I did a very bad thing." But it was too late. Helena was dead. Anna had grown up and remained cold. When Anna turned 18, she said she wanted to get married. And she added, "After I marry, I never want to see you again." These words shattered Zoe's heart. "Why, my daughter? I love you very much." Anna answered coldly, "You don't know how to love. You only love power." These words were the same as Helena's words. After Anna married, she really never saw her mother again. Zoe had been abandoned by her own daughter. Zoe's story shows the darkest truths in mother-child relationships. Today, too, similar betrayals happen. Children who send elderly parents to nursing homes for money. People who abandon their parents for inheritance. Parents who sacrifice their families for careers. They all experience the same psychology. Power and money are more important than family love. But Zoe's story also shows this: the person who betrays suffers the punishment most. Zoe tried to gain power by selling her mother, but in the end she lost her own child's love. This is a universal rule of justice. What you do comes back to you. You listen to this horrifying story to the end. This shows the importance you give to family values, but now the question is, how far would you go for power and money over your family? Zoe's story teaches us this: Nothing is more valuable than family love. Money passes, power disappears, but love is permanent. If you were affected by this story, hit the like button, because I want to know that such moral lessons are important. Tell me in the comments, what are you ready to do for your family? What do you think about what Zoe did? Do you see similar examples today? Don't forget to subscribe, because in the next video, I'll tell you the story of the emperor who ate his own children. And believe me, this story is even more shocking than Zoe's. Which country are you watching from? Write in the comments, I'm curious. And remember, family is the most valuable treasure in life. Don't sacrifice it for money. See you soon, and hug your family.